It is the 10th of the 7th, 2025, 10 minutes past 8. And we've got to, as always, get techier than techie things because there are very many F1 centric thread at which we need to pull. It is the afternoon after the night before. Christian Horner is gonzo and Lauren Mekies is now a bum in a Red Bull racing seat. Oh, the humanity. We will look at pictures and their ramifications shortly thereafter. What happens at Scuderia Ferrari? Where is Christian Horner going to go? Is it Alpine? Is it Ferrari? Is it off into retirement and the distance? So too, we'll talk about Max Verstappen because things are leaking left, right and centre. This is conjecture and speculation. But if it comes out of the mouth of somebody in the know, somebody so close to Max Verstappen as Nelson Piquet Jr., brother of Max Verstappen's partner Kelly Piquet, then I think we need to pay its attention. He was speaking on a podcast and he said some things, and what makes it even more pertinent, it's as if the rumour around Max going to Mercedes have not gone away. Let's talk to it. Gonna get techie. John, I'm telling you, we're gonna get techier than techie things over the next 10 to 15 minutes. As always, in the first instance, it feels like Formula One as a space is different now that Christian Horner is not part of it. Say whatever you want to do about the dude, love him or loathe him. He was responsible for some of the most memorable highlights in Drive to Survive and or Formula One history. Fix your fudging car, Toto. Toto's not a racing mind. He's a businessman. FT settings. That was Christian Horner. And I would argue that F1 as a space, its capacity to go viral, attract and keep attention dollars was here over the weekend. Son's Christian Horner is now here, materially lower. And here's where you know it gets a bit techie because you see Lauren Mekies rock up as the new team principal of Red Bull Racing. What are we doing here? Roll the clip, Cameron. Can you even believe this? SH1T. I don't even know. This is like seeing Ayrton Senna in the Rotham's Williams Racing overall. I don't want to see that. This doesn't make sense. This is like seeing Maximilian Verstappen in their Mercedes black overalls. Lauren Mekies, first day at work, shaking hands with Christian Horner's gang, now team principal of Red Bull Racing, the house that Christian Horner built. This feels like a glitch in the Matrix. What are we watching here? Christian Horner's not going to be there in a couple of weeks and a couple of weekends time at Spa-Franco. What are we doing here? Well, we're going to see Lauren Mekies having conversations with Maximilian. I don't even know what's going on. It's techier than techie things, but something, I don't think we've given it its proper credence just yet. There was today Goodwood Festival of Speed for all motorsport piston head minded, discerning-eyed fans. Goodwood Festival of Speed is one of the best events in the world, right? You get to see all of the cars. And at it today was one David Coulthard, one-time Red Bull Racing driver, F1 settings, legendary settings, now Red Bull Racing ambassador. He was, of course, asked about Christian Horner. Just a quick comment, David Coulthard and Christian Horner, all that he's done, legendary settings of Red Bull Racing. And here was his response, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury. We'll watch it, and you guys let me know what you think post. Hayes, roll the clip.
Finally, news obviously about Christian Horner is out of Red Bull. You were there at the beginning. I mean, just sum up how much Christian has achieved in his time at Red Bull, because it's been an amazing run over the last 20 years.
Yeah, well, I think that the result page says everything. I think there was a couple of postings yesterday listing all of the victories the team has had, all of the World Championships. So that's it. That's the that's the credits that the whole team, of course, have collectively put out on the racetrack. But Christian was the team principal for those 20 years.
David, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tell me, David Coulthard, that you don't want to say Christian Horner's name without telling me that you don't want to say it. That was weird. Chat, what are we doing here? I'm reminded of Christian Horner in one of his final interviews as team principal of Red Bull Racing when he didn't want to talk about Max Verstappen's god-tier pole lap around the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Oh yeah, it was a half-decent lap, but the team have done so well. It was all about the team nailing the setup, getting that diva of an RB21 car into its optimal operating window. What are we talking about, David Coulthard? What, you couldn't put some respect on Christian Horner's name? Talk about all the accolades. No, the team. He's done the team. The accolades that the what? There's something going on there. It's almost as if David Coulthard, with a view to keep his role as a Red Bull Racing ambassador, needed not to say Christian Horner's name. So toxic has it become. They want to separate from this dude now. I feel, listen, if I'm a betting degenerate, I think something else is going on in the background about which we do not yet know. Court case settings, common law, UK, misconduct allegations set to continue. You know, I'm reminded, sports history doesn't repeat, but sometimes it does rhyme. I'm reminding John Bones Jones, one of the goatiest mixed martial arts fighters that we'll ever see, retired the other day. And only 24 hours after his retirement, there were allegations in the press and media about him being involved in another salacious circumstance. Do not bet against hearing from Christian Horner and some allegations, criminal proceedings potentially. If I were a betting man, conjecture and speculation 1000%, but if I were a betting man, I think that we might hear something about this within the next couple of months. BC, you're a legend. I apologise for being ever so slightly tardy, but you know, we've got to do our due diligence and prepare some slides, especially when we're going to get techier than techier things. And then you come to find out this. This is important if we're having conversations about the future of Red Bull Racing, Christian Horner and Maximilian Verstappen, where he goes next. Why? Well, because here it is. Oliver Mintzlaff, Austria, Mark Mateschitz, Dietrich's son, have long been at loggerheads with Christian Horner, and so Charlie Mavija. They sat on very different sides of the fence, right? Them over here, Christian Horner and Charlie Mavija over here. Lest we forget, Brazil 23, as soon as the allegations were made known to one Christian Horner, he didn't fly home after the Brazilian Grand Prix. He flew to Thailand to see his adopted, in inverted commas, father, Charlie Mavija, the 51% owner of Red Bull GmbH. Now, what's critical here is that he was only 51% owner post the death of Dietrich Mateschitz. The one promise that Dietrich made to Charlie Mavija is that on his passing, he could be the majority shareholder. Indeed, he would have to rubber stamp any of the key decisions. They are a private entity, not a public one. Therefore, there is a different set of circumstances and parameters within which they have to operate in the event of a misconduct allegation storm. And that's important because Charlie Mavija, whilst Christian Horner curried favour and fostered rapport with Charlie Mavija, he was in the clear. He was always going to be in the clear. Charlie Mavija was always going to rubber stamp Christian Horner and his tenure going forward because that was the relationship they had. Now that Christian Horner's gone, check this ish out. You cannot believe it. Company documents were filed in Austria recently revealed that Charlie Mavija's personal shareholding in Red Bull GmbH ended, fundamentally altering the ownership structure of Red Bull Racing's parent company on May the 31st, not long ago. Documents lodged with the Regional Court of Salzburg confirmed the deletion of Javija's own 2% stake, with these shares transferred to feed it. What is going on? So he's now ceded majority shareholder. What? Why? That was Dietrich's present to Charlie Mavija, the man with whom he set up Red Bull in the first instance. So it was almost like the 2% was there to fend off Christian Horner. No, or maybe I'm misreading this. Why now, on the back of Christian Horner's going away, did Mavija say, you know what, I don't need this 2% anymore? If not, because he doesn't need it to fight power of veto against one Christian Horner. I don't understand it, chat. It's chaos, this. I can't comprehend it, but it has to be linked, eh? And then you get this. Let's talk about Christian Horner going forward, right? Because for the longest time, we've talked about Christian Horner and Ferrari. Why? Because it's been made clear in the Italian press and media that not John Elkann has been obsessed with superseding Frederick Vasseur with one Christian Horner. Always been obsessed with that. Frederick Vasseur's 10, he's not a bad guy. He's a lovable rogue of a guy, is Frederick Vasseur. But is he the right guy to lead Scuderia Ferrari, the red car with the yellow badge and black prancing horse, back to the mountain top, just like Jean Todt did? I don't know the answer to that. We don't know the answer yet. And we need to know it soon, Because for the avoidance of doubt, Frederick Vasseur has a contract through to the end of this year and they are not renewing it yet. Of course, the CEO of Ferrari came out and said, yeah, we'll be having conversations. But this isn't a dissimilar circumstance between Frederick Vasseur and George Russell. If you harbour aspirations to keep them then at the team, extend their contract, but they won't, because there's something else going on in the background, something else that they want. People are saying, Ferrari came out and said, no, listen, we're happy with Frederick Vasseur. We're not going to sign Christian Horner. Well, this feels to me like lies, ladies and gentlemen. It's like the hottest girl in the school. You've been eyeing her up all this time, and then all of a sudden, she splits up from her boyfriend. What do you think's going to happen, for Pete's sake? This isn't Fermat's last theorem. This is just counting. Of course, John Elkann is going to be having conversations with Christian Horner now to ascertain how long his gardening leave, whether he'd be interested in coming over to Maranello once they get rid of Frederick Vasseur, in no small part due to his material underperformance season to date. No wins, no championships. That's how to characterize even Frederick Vasseur's reign to date. He's done nothing, chat. It's not good enough. And again, listen, I'm going to cite this again. And you've got to learn from the past, haven't you? Rob Smedley, one-time performance engineer of Felipe Massa, race engineer even, always told us that the passion over at the Tifosi is such that if you are winning, you'll never have to buy a drink or a meal in Italy. You will be adorned. They will love you. They will carry you in the streets. Monza settings it cares. If you lose, in perpetuity without compunction, they will spit at you. Scuderia Ferrari is not a team like Williams or Mercedes. It's Italy's team. There is a different level of passion that comes with it, with that. And so you better win and or have a plan. And I don't think Frederick Vasseur has either of those. And that's why Elkann is so keen to replace him. If word on the F1 curb is something that you want to be invested in, to replace him with one Christian Horner. It's going to get techier than techie things. And this, by the legends over at Ferrari Focus, one of the go-toest Twitter handles if you're invested in that type of stuff. This is why they say, per Italian papers and media, that a decision is expected to be announced within the next few weeks on Frederick Vasseur's future. If past his prologue, ladies and gentlemen, of the F1 duo, you'll recall that around Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc's contract, they waited then, didn't they? They don't wait on these things for no reason. It is all intentional. It is all deliberate. Then they waited because they were sniffing around one Sir Lewis, Carl, Davidson, Hamilton. How, ladies and gentlemen, did that work out? Of course they have someone in mind, and that person has a name. His name is Christian Horner. Oh, and by the way, Nelson Piquet has gone on a podcast and he started talking about the future of his future brother-in-law, the one that they call Maximilian Verstappen. The context is this. Over the most recent race weekends, Toto the boy who cried wolf has been making it quite clear that he will drop kick in the chest one George Russell or Kimi Antonelli if it means that he can get a whiff of the signature of Maximilian Verstappen. No change there. Summer break 2024, they were having conversations. Miami Grand Prix weekend, they were having conversations. Toto is very keen yet and still to amend for the mistakes of Christmas past. Mentioned no names 2016 when he had the opportunity to sign Maximilian Verstappen but didn't because there was no room at the Mercedes Inn. Please see Nico Rosberg and Sir Lewis, Carl Davidson, Hamilton. Now how's Toto feeling? Full of rue and regret that he had Maximilian Verstappen in his hands and he allowed him to slip through. Do you think Toto's keen to make that mistake again? Absolutely not. That's why he's messaging it very transparently before the world's press and media. Maximilian Verstappen has been asked numerous occasions, are you going to continue, see out your contract through to Red Bull to 2028 when it's due to come to an end, expire? Maximilian Verstappen said, I will need a couple things to continue at Red Bull if indeed that's my choice. Being a semblance of harmony, being a car capable of winning championships, and the personnel capable of building said car. Which of those does he have as at July 2025? I would argue none of them. Wheatley gone, Newey gone, Marshall gone, Coulthard, all of the key people are gone, and now Christian Horner has gone. Do you think Mekis is going to make that team stronger or weaker in the short term? Weaker, 1000% in the short term. So why is Maximilian Verstappen going to say? Do you think there's semblance of harmony? Potentially now that Christian Horner's gone there, it will be more harmonious. But what about the car chat? Do you think Christian Horner leaving is going to somehow make that SF25 or that RB21 even, Freudian slip, into a God tier championship winning car? I'm not sure that that's true. And now you get Nelson Piquet, not necessarily a person in the know, but a person close enough to Max Verstappen's circumstance to speak to it with some degree of certainty. Roll the clip, Cameron.
Prova realmente para esquecer aqui, uma prova Mercedes, uma prova horrorosa. Tanto que as champanhes foram todas para Sauber ali.
Tem final de semana que não
vai.
Que não vai, né? Não tem jeito. E um deles é um novato, que também tomou uma porrada por trás do Adjar. Enfim, não foi o final de semana. Quem sabe o ano que vem o Max lá.
Opa!
Right, so my Portuguese isn't fantastic, but you see those last four words, the last three words, Max estará allí. Spanish and Portuguese are quite similar sometimes. In Spanish, Max estará allí quite literally means Max will be there. This is important. Continue with the clip and we'll dissect this. We'll go through the translation shortly, I promise.
É mesmo?
Não, porque eles estão conversando todo mundo sabe, né? Falta descobrir se eles vão se acertar contratualmente entre eles, né? Mas que é uma opção, todo mundo sabe. Isso aí tá em conversa, né?
Chaos, ladies and gentlemen, the F1 jury. Now, the good guys and girls over at F1 Reddit, courtesy via a username called RayTracerX, have done a translation, and we'll go through it now because this is important. This is how that conversation reads in English. Who knows next year with Max there at Mercedes? Whoa. At Mercedes really responds to interviewer. Nelson Piquet Jr. continues, while they're talking, everybody knows, right, just missing the final contract details, but everybody knows that it's an option, that Mercedes and Max are talking. The interviewer responds in Silverstone. They asked Max if he was staying and he didn't reply yes or no, or if it would be a sabbatical. Nelson Piquet Jr. says, I don't think so, not a sabbatical. A German reporter pressed him on if it would be a no. He won't take a year off racing or F1, and he said he would be in F1 in 2026. Nelson says he will be until August. He needs to have made a decision. They will either get the final details right or not, but I think it would be pretty cool to switch or to stay. To switch, says Nelson Piquet Jr. If he switches, what's the best scenario as a teammate, Russell or Antonelli? If he goes, it will definitely be Antonelli. So I don't know what to make of this, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe it's a nothing burger. Maybe it's a slip of the tongue. But that Nelson Piquet, that it came out of his mouth, who knows next year with Max there at Mercedes in brackets, that came out of Nelson Piquet's mouth means that we need to take this thing serious. Max Verstappen will not tell us, of course he won't, but this is a serious thing now. July the 31st, there will be performance clauses. Ergo, if Maximilian Verstappen is outside of the top two in the championship of the drivers' variety, performance clause setting can null and void his contract. So too, as far as the Constructors' Championship, if Red Bull are outside of the top three as at July the 31st, mini summer break, then again, Maximilian Verstappen, if rumour, conjecture, word on the F1 curb is something in which you want to believe, Max can null and void his contract and go wherever he wants as soon as 2026. Nelson Piquet is underlining that. Now, maybe he's just talking out of his AWS. Maybe Nelson Piquet doesn't know anything, or maybe he's having conversations with his future brother-in-law. Maybe he's acutely aware of the circumstance and he's talking from a position of being in the know. A point of vantage. I will repeat again. Nelson Piquet says, who knows next year with Max there in brackets at Mercedes. What are we doing here, chat? This is some chaos. This is chaos of a different variety now. Now Nelson Piquet, future brother-in-law of Maximilian Verstappen, is saying that this dude could be over there sooner than we think. What are we doing here, chat? I don't even know what to make of it. The chaos is too much for me, genuinely. I think Max might be going. You want me to put all my chips down on one of these eventualities? I think Maximilian Verstappen might be going, and it might be a question of when and not if. That it will be Mercedes and not Aston Martin, that he won't stay at Red Bull. And again, if you're going to read the tea leaves as far as the circumstance at Red Bull, I understand it by reading and talking to different sources. That it wasn't, well, if Christian Horner leaves, then I stay. It was this. If Christian Horner doesn't leave, then I definitely go. That was the supposition, the dilemma that Maximilian Verstappen Team Max presented to Red Bull, and that's why Christian Horner had to go. It wasn't just the poor performance, it wasn't just allegation gate, it wasn't all of the aforementioned, it wasn't the rupture in the relationship with the then 51% shareholder, the Charlie Miavidra family, it wasn't just Austria gunning for Christian Horner, it wasn't about the blethering British financiers with a view to spin off Red Bull Racing Technologies, it wasn't just about any one of those things, it was the fact that it was Jos Verstappen, it was allegation gate, it was Eskimo brothers, it was the fact that Christian Horner had overstepped his remate, telling Jos Verstappen who he should and shouldn't be going out with. Is the fact that Christian Horner may well still have a case at UK courts about which no accredited UK journos are allowed to speak. It's about those things, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, and moreover it's about the fact that Maximilian Verstappen said to them, listen, if he stays in his current position with all that power that he has, Caesar at the gate settings, then I will leave. Now that Christian Horner's gone, of course, the probability that Max Verstappen stays through 26 and 27 does one of these, but there are other parameters. This isn't full stop new paragraph. Maximilian Verstappen is still having conversations with Mercedes with a view to see what they've got for him, what their power unit's saying, whether they can do another 2014 and pull out anywhere between 20 and 30 brake horsepower as far as doable competitive advantage as versus the other 9 teams. BC Legend. Rumour, Horner left to manage by Pique Vice Versa Revival. Listen, I think you'll see Christian Horner back in there, and I think he'll be there with Ferrari. If Occam's razor is a thing and you're connecting dots, then why wouldn't he be at Ferrari? John Elkann already has signalled that he's keen to, 1, get rid of Frederick Vasseur, and 2, have Christian Horner supersede him. Now again, that the hottest girl at school has sacked off her boyfriend. Now that they've split up, don't think for a second that everybody won't be going for Christian. Of course they will be. It's going to get techie than techie things, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury. John out here donating memberships to you, an absolute legend. Kevin, brand new member. I don't know where this is going to go. We'll go long tomorrow, I promise. John says, Merc AMG probably has the best hybrid engine in 26. They have the most knowledge and experience with I don't disagree, John. I don't disagree. And listen, my crystal ball is as murky as the next person's. It always is. There is no predicting the future in this. But if we're playing probability games, again, gun to the head in 2026, given the new rules and regs, which one of those teams would you want to drive for? I would argue this. That team has a name, and that team's name is Mercedes-AMG Petronas. Given the most recent history, 14 split turbo hybrid settings, the feeling at the factory per James Allison that they've done it again. DJ Khaled settings, I don't know. But the story here is Maximilian Verstappen. Where's he going to go? Nelson Piquet now coming out and saying words to this effect. Who knows next year when Max Verstappen is there at Mercedes? Chat, maybe it's a nothing burger, but maybe it's something. Maybe even the next 2 to 3 months, we look back on this, just like we look back on the Frederick Vasseur and Christian Horner stories, and realise that there is often no F1 smoke without F1 fire. Between now and next time, the prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.